Hi everyone! On today's video I'm gonna talk about what I think is the most beautiful camera in existence, the Wirgin Edixa Reflex. Let's check this out. So it's kind of a complex thing to describe. The brand is Wirgin. The category name is Edixa and the model name is Reflex. Yes, that was original. It's like a car manufacturer calling it their new model the car. Well, Renault did that. This camera was introduced in 1954, meaning it was already there to take the picture of Marty and Doc in front of the clock tower, still working. Yeah, it's somehow a professional-ish camera. You have this removable viewfinder, and the fact it is a reflex camera makes it somehow a professional item. Back in the day, most people were using stuff like this, viewfinder cameras. And that's probably the reason why it's not that popular. You see, I've been scouting flea markets since I was a kid, and in 20 odd years, I only saw 2 of them. And that's the one. Not a lot of Wirgins. That doesn't sound good. Well, to make things easier for you guys, I'm gonna call it the Edixa from now on. You see, if you're watching this video at work, maybe you don't want to tell your boss why you're watching a guy talking about Wirgins. So, it's the Edixa. I haven't had this camera for a very long time. You see, I was at an antique store and I saw it. The guy was asking $100 for it, which is way too much for the camera because it looked like this. And plus, the shutter was kind of lazy. It was not responding to slower shutter speeds. It needed some CLA, but it was not difficult to do. This is a simple camera when you think about it. It's 1954 technology, and back then they were literally making things to be repaired. And I have absolutely no regrets. This is a winner to me. A winner on 2 sides. You see, for a while I thought that the best camera, for the build quality, was the Nikon F. I changed my mind. The Edixa feels like a Swiss watch or an Audi. Something that is strong and sturdy and built with quality in mind. And the second side where it won over me was how it looks. I thought for years that the Exakta camera was the most beautiful camera in the world. But no, look at that. Definitely the Edixa. Best looking camera in the world. If you want a testimony on its build quality, well, just listen to the shutter. And now, for comparison's sake, let's listen to a Fujica. Yeah, you understand. But performance-wise, it's a good, decent performer for the time. You have a slow shutter speeds, high shutter speeds of 1/1000, which is pretty cool for the day. The lens on it is the Western R from ISCO Göttingen. I think it's pretty similar to what you'll find for a Zeiss Tessar. Only an aperture at 2.8, which is not the best, but it's good enough. And I mean, at wide aperture it's kind of soft, but if you stop it down just a little, it gets sharp. But the lens is not really an issue, since this camera uses an M42 lens mount. So, welcome to Kumars or Tair, the Russian lens. And this one, well, this is a winner. An awesome portrait lens. And if you were worried about the batteries, well, there's no light meter, so it doesn't even need batteries. This camera could survive the apocalypse. You see, there are some similarities with Edixa and Exakta. In 1951, Exakta was on top of its game because they didn't have any competition. In 1954, the Edixa was on top of its game. And it was able to fight against competitors like the Zeiss Flex. And just a few improvements, just like an instant return mirror on this, and it could have been able to compete against the Nikon F. So, why? What happened? You see, Edixa came out with improved models from this, but they looked pretty similar to this one. And back then, the Japanese competition by Canon Nikon, Minolta, Pentax and Olympus were really pumping out models each year, and they were modern. And you see, nowadays it looks like a vintage camera and it looks good. People would love it. You see, the 1960s were a different time and a different era. We were promised that a man would be walking on the moon before the decade was out, and we got it. We were promised supersonic passenger airplanes. We got them. And when people were looking at this in the store, it looked passé, old-fashioned, while the Japanese competition, well, they looked like the future. And what does the customer do in an era where we expect something to be futuristic? We do not buy this. We go with the future. And that's probably the reason why the Edixa went out of fashion. And a sad story and another similarity with the Exakta is that in the 70s, the Edixa brand was revamped on some Japanese-made cameras just to capitalize on the brand recognition this camera used to have. But that was the end of an era. And if you are interested into how this camera works, well, just check this video. It's an instructional video in the style of the 1950s. So it suits the camera just fine. And that's all I've got for you today. As always, thank you for watching, and hope to see you next time. Be seeing you guys.